Are you thinking about moving to Bend, Oregon, but you're not quite sure if it's the right move for you? I have 5 things that I wish I had known before relocating to Bend over 10 years ago from the Portland, Oregon area. My name's Haley Overton. I'm a local real estate expert and a relocation specialist. I have helped dozens and dozens of people relocate here from different parts of Oregon and the entire country. Number 1. This is the high desert, and that's not just a marketing term that people use. What it actually means is that we are at a higher elevation and it is truly the desert. So that means that it's drier here. Now, being part of the high desert is really great when it comes to summertime, and you hear the term a dry heat. So a dry heat means that we don't have all of that humidity, which makes things feel hotter and muggier in the summer. If it's 89 degrees, then it typically feels like 89 degrees here in Bend. However, that dryness can really come into play when it comes to your hair, nails, your skin. I know when I first moved here, I used lip balm like crazy. I always give lip balm to our new clients and even people who are visiting because it gets so dry. You'll notice that your lips can get a little bit flaky. I know I had this moment of thinking, oh my gosh, can we even stay here? Because my lips are so dry all of the time. Eventually it gets better. I go days without using lip balm now. But your body and your home, your plants, your pets, everybody will feel a difference whenever, especially if you're coming from a more humid climate like the coastal areas of California, the Portland area, the coastal Oregon areas. You'll definitely notice that it's a lot drier here. So while high desert is a really great thing, it doesn't feel as hot whenever it's summertime. You will notice that your hair and your skin and all that there's definitely an adjustment period. And you need more moisturizing products than maybe you would if you were in different areas. When our friends come to visit us from Portland, we have one that actually travels with a personal humidifier because she doesn't want her skin to get too dry. And then there are even people here in Central Oregon who install whole house humidifiers. So you've heard of a dehumidifier, which takes moisture out of the air. Well, people here in Central Oregon are constantly trying to put moisture into the air. We see, we have humidifiers in our kids' bedrooms, and then we see people who install whole house humidifiers to keep their home at a decent humidity level. Not so high that it causes mold growth or anything like that, but just to keep that moisture in the air, to keep everybody's bodies nice and moisturized. Number 2, the mountain tax is a real thing, and that doesn't just mean that it's expensive to buy a home. Things in Bend are more expensive than most people who are moving here actually realize. People coming from bigger cities like San Diego or LA, they move to Bend oftentimes thinking that it's going to be less expensive to go out to dinner, to buy groceries, where it actually really isn't. You can go to downtown Bend or one of the restaurants here and buy a hamburger and it's $21 to $25, and that's before you even get French fries. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is that eating out here can feel very expensive. Bend is a tourist town, so we have a lot of people who are visiting who don't live here. They come here in the summer and they're vacationing, and whenever you live in a place where people come to vacation and it's more of a tourist destination, you do pay that tourist tax as a local. I, for one, have always been lobbying that we should have a little locals card that we can present at restaurants and get 10% off or a free beer or something like that. Nobody's taken me up on it yet, but if any place like Crux or the Chutes Brewery wants to reach out, then I'm happy to spearhead that effort, because I think it would be really neat for some cool local spots to give a discount to some locals versus that tourist tax. Now, you also are going to pay a little bit more for buying local products because we don't have the large shopping scene here like in larger cities. We don't have a lot of chain clothing shops and places to just buy gear. So things just tend to be a little bit more expensive if you want to buy local. Now, we love supporting local. I try to support our local small businesses as much as I possibly can, but there are some things that you just have to buy online and have them delivered because we just don't necessarily have the retail infrastructure that other places do. Okay, moving on to number 3. So when you used to hear in Bend that East Side versus West Side, and the West Side is the cool hip area, that's where all the shopping is, and that's where all the cool restaurants are and the trails and all the things. And I don't know that that's really true anymore. The East Side is getting built up more and more every day. There are some major differences, and I'll touch on those a little bit, and I touch on those a lot in other videos, so feel free to check those out. But I feel like the old argument that the east side is not cool and the west side is cool is definitely outdated. And it really has been, really since COVID. We see a lot of people who are moving here and they want to be on the east side, whether that's because of price point. The east side is still considerably less expensive than the west side, but there's also a great sense of community on the east side that I don't think used to be there. We used to live on the east side and we really loved our neighborhood. There are lots of parks over there. There are walking trails. There's some new cool food cart pods that have popped up over in the last few years, some really great restaurants. There's Reed Station, that's off of Reed Market and 27th. Cascade Lakes Brewing is out there. So you're really, no matter where you live in Bend, you're going to find a really great sense of community. You're going to get to have outdoor recreation opportunities. You might have to drive a little bit farther if you live on the east side, but you might also pay half as much, if not less, for a house than you would for the same house on the west side. So east versus west, they're both great. Again, I talk about that a lot more in other videos, but I think that wherever you land in Bend, depending on your price point and what lifestyle you're looking for, I think you're going to be pretty happy. Okay, number 4. So we don't have the traffic that big cities have. We don't have as many stoplights and the gridlock and the bottlenecks maybe that you see in a lot of other cities. However, we do have a lot of roundabouts. I personally love the roundabouts. I think that they keep traffic flowing. I think that you go at a little slower pace, so accidents and collisions are a little bit less common. So you have to learn the yield rules in terms of learning how to navigate the roundabouts, who has the right of way, when to use your blinker. Oh my gosh, I'm going to make an entire video on using your blinker and Bend roundabouts. You don't use your left blinker, you use the right blinker to signal out. Roundabout, signal out. I'm making a whole video on that because it drives me a little crazy when people signal that they're staying in the roundabout. So we don't have the traffic that big cities have. However, for the lights that we do have, you might notice that during peak tourism season, which is really Memorial Day through the end of August, maybe Labor Day, just because California and Portland go back to school a little bit earlier than we do here in Bend. Those peak tourist seasons, you might be sitting at lights a little bit longer. You might have some congestion and some traffic down by the old mill during a concert. Downtown can be really tricky to find parking any time of year, but especially in those peak summer times. So while people, again, they think that Bend is small town, they're just gonna go downtown and find a parking spot and go to lunch on a Friday, that is not the case. So you definitely want to plan ahead on that. Make sure that you give yourself plenty of time to get where you need to go. To get from east to west or west to east, it can sometimes take up to 25 minutes, depending on time of day, time of year, how much traffic there is, all of those things. Now, if it's the middle of the day and it's in, let's say, November, and traffic's not that bad, you can go from east to west in 15 minutes. So just plan ahead. But Bend does have traffic. It's just not going to be the 2-hour gridlock on the highway traffic that maybe if you're coming from a bigger city that you're used to. Number 5, it was not a huge one for me, but it is something to think about if you're moving to Central Oregon and you're not super outdoorsy. Your social life in Bend will most likely revolve around something outside, at least at some point, whether that be mountain biking, skiing, paddle boarding, floating the river, going for a hike, going for a walk. People who live in Central Oregon, they spend a lot of time outside. Your social meetups will probably end up there. I know when we first moved here, we were even a part of a kickball team, which was really fun. We won championship at some point, yay. But there are so many things to do that are outdoors here. People tend to want to be outdoors here all year round, whether or not it's snowing, it's sunny, it's raining. We don't get a ton of rain here, but people are still out recreating even whenever it's raining. So if you're not an outdoorsy person, there are certainly other things to do. We have game shops and we have things like that. But I do find that my clients who move here that are not super outdoorsy, they don't tend to find their community maybe quite as fast as those people who are willing to put themselves out there. Maybe you don't hike a lot where you live now, but you're willing to try it. So I would say if you are moving to Central Oregon, be open-minded. Be willing to join a hiking group or a paddleboarding group, or even just take a float down the river and make some new friends, because there are so many great opportunities here to recreate outside. We don't shut down in the winter, and you'll find people having fun all season long. Bend is a really incredible place to live. If you are thinking about moving here or have questions, I'm always happy to be a resource for people. Again, I moved here myself with my husband about 10 years ago. Now we have 2 young children. We are always out and about, and I love helping people relocate to Bend. If you want to watch more videos, make sure you like and subscribe. We upload new ones all the time, all about living in Bend, Bend life, Bend housing, and any questions that you have. If there's something that I missed that maybe you weren't expecting whenever you moved to Central Oregon, leave it in the comments below. I'm always happy to respond directly, or if we get enough, I'll make my own video about that specific thing. Thanks for watching.